So as David said, I'm Okoe, the youth pastor at Lifehouse down in Hagerstown. I've been at that church for not all 20 years, but close to the all 20 years. And it's just been awesome to celebrate. Like I said, today they're celebrating 20 years. But this past week, we were just celebrating as a staff just all the things that God's been doing in all of the network churches. So here in Winchester, and then all across Florida, and then in other places throughout the country and even the world. And it was so cool to be able to celebrate that, and then to be here with you guys and just hear some stories even this morning. I was talking to the team earlier, and I actually, about 12 years ago, I got to go on a mission trip with Jana and Joel to Ecuador, and I saw Jana, and I was like, hey, she introduced herself to me, and I was like, yeah, we actually met like 12 years ago. She was like, whoa. At that time, I would have been 13 years old, so I was probably look a little different now. But yeah, I was going to jump right in and to kind of ask the question, what's hurt you? Kind of a big shift from, hey, let's celebrate, to what's hurt you, or what is hurting you? Like, what bad news are you navigating or walking through? Have you walked through in the past? I spoke a variation of this message to some students, and I referenced the song In the Stars by Benson Boone, if anyone is familiar. And that whole song is really about loss. It's really about this losing, the loss of a loved one, and really even how it impacts Benson's desire to connect with church. And there's this idea of man, my heart's been left in a million little pieces. Sundays don't feel the same anymore. And I wonder if some of us maybe are feeling that right now, or have had times where we have felt that, where something has happened and all of a sudden something that felt normal doesn't feel normal anymore. Maybe it's coming to church is man, I used to do it every time, and even coming here this morning, it just didn't feel quite the way it usually feels. I didn't feel quite comfortable or quite safe because there's some bad news, some hurt, some things I'm navigating right now. Totally flip the script. What is the best news you've ever gotten, and what did you do with it? So I've gotten some good news throughout the years. The most recent kind of really big good news is I think there's probably a photo of my family. So this is my wife, Courtney. She's actually the children's pastor at Lifehouse as well, and our son, Cornelius. He just turned 2 a little bit ago. I actually got a phone call on my way here. It was my wife. She was calling me and said, hey, you need to come back to the church. I dropped her off. And I was like, what's going on? She's like, I lost Cornelius. That's, if you have a 2-year-old, you're familiar with this. And so I drove back. She found him. Everything turned out all right. But part of the reason why she needed me to come back is because if you can see the little photo, we're expecting our second kid in 2 weeks. So it's you're a little not quite as fast when you're 38 weeks pregnant. So we're really excited about that. We got a little girl coming. I guess the opposite of Pastor Benny as far as the order. But I remember we always thought we were going to have 2 or 3 kids, something like that. But when we found out we were pregnant with baby Phoebe, we weren't necessarily trying, necessarily expecting, hey, we're going to go this timeline. We were super excited, but why I bring it up is that was good news for us. But at the same time, I knew 2 of my siblings who were struggling with fertility. I knew one of my volunteers in youth ministry had just had his second miscarriage. His wife had just had a second miscarriage. And I knew several other people really close to me that wasn't good news for them. It wasn't the good news they got to share. So then I was wrestling with this idea, man, it's good news, but what do I do with it? Maybe you have had something where it's, man, I just want to celebrate this. I want to share it. I want to speak it into it. But you're caught up, well, I don't know how somebody's going to respond. If it's going to come across the wrong way. I don't know what to do with this good news. So rather, if you're on the side, man, I'm just going through it. Getting here today, waking up today was a struggle. I'm the one seeking after, looking for that good news. Or you're the one that has something to celebrate, but you know people around you are going through something. You don't know what to do with it. I want to take us on a little journey throughout all the scriptures. We're going to start kind of the beginning of the story and then run through today. But we're not going to start in Genesis. We're going to start actually in John 1. So in John 1, or John as a whole book, is a little bit different than all the rest of the Gospels. You have 3 Gospels that are all pretty similar. And then John is this cosmological gospel, would be a fancy word. It basically means it looks at the story of creation, looks at what Jesus is for the whole story. And in John 1, 1-5 says, in the beginning, the Word already existed. The Word being Jesus. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. He existed in the beginning with God. God created everything through him, and nothing was created except through him. The Word gave life to everything that was created, and his life brought light to everyone. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it. So a few things that jump out to me with that. First is like that the Word has already existed, that Jesus has been a part of the story since the very beginning. Second, I find a lot of comfort in the fact that it mentions the darkness, because that's like, hey, regardless of what light's out there, what good news is out there, like all of us have experienced some type of darkness or experiencing it right now. It's like to acknowledge that that's a real thing that all of us are going to encounter. Yeah, doesn't feel good, but to know, man, I'm not the only one. But then certainly the best news in that story is that it says that Jesus is the light that can extinguish all darkness. That there's no darkness, there's no bad news, there's no suffering or hurt that's greater than the light that Jesus can bring into the story. If we do jump back to the very big first book, you get the story of creation. I love the first 7 or 8 chapters in Genesis. And the first 2, you get the world comes into existence. Everything is beautiful and great. God gives Adam and Eve this commission to say, hey, you just get to work and keep this garden. You get to live in paradise. You get to literally walk alongside the Creator in this beautiful everything. They're brilliant. They name everything. But they said, hey, there's one thing I don't want you to do. There's one thing that's going to damage you. It's going to bring darkness in. Hey, there's this tree that's the knowledge of everything that's good and everything that's bad. And just don't eat that tree. Don't avoid the tree of good and evil, and you'll get to live in this paradise. As we're familiar, that's not what happens. They see it, they desire it, and they take it. I imagine there's times where you've seen things or thought about, man, I know this probably isn't the best thing, but what happens if I would just have it with me, if I would just take this thing, take this opportunity, or take this action that isn't the best, but I just think it could be, and then we consume it, and then we realize almost immediately what happened. So that moment happens, and then Genesis 3:22, it says, and the Lord said, this is right after they'd eaten from the tree, the man has now become like one of us, knowing good and evil. He must not be allowed to reach out his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever. You see, likely these trees are side by side, and the moment, it seems like he's pushing them out of the garden, but really he's setting in course the direction for the rest of the narrative, the rest of the story that allows Jesus to be the light. Because if Adam and Eve would have stayed there, they would have lived forever, but forever separated, forever away from God, forever away from Jesus, forever away from the light. So by putting them outside of the garden, he's able to create this new path, this new directory where light is possible. I had the opportunity once to drive the road that goes from Array, Colorado to Silverton, Colorado. If you're not familiar with, I think there's a picture of that too. So this road, this isn't my photo, but it looked kind of like this when we were here. This like 2,000-foot cliff to the left, cliff to the right, and no guardrails. And it was snowing the day we were there. So not the exact photo, but pretty much the exact same. And I remember driving up this, and I would have taken a picture of myself, but I was driving and it was snowing. There's no guardrail, so I didn't think that was the best idea. But we were driving up this road, and we were driving on the side that has the cliff. And I initially thought, like, how terrifying is this? You know, you swerve and then, well, that's that. But then I was thinking, I was like, man, how value would I feel as like a citizen if Colorado would just like put a guardrail there? This like would have been a little protection on the side. Like, man, I would just feel so much better about life. So the first thing is like the Bible is an excellent guardrail. It's an excellent guidebook, an excellent protection between all of the darkness, all of the brokenness, and the light that Jesus can bring. And the second thing is we followed a plow truck the whole way up this path. It just happened to be, we pulled over a little overlook, and then a plow truck kind of came over like, hey, you want to follow us? Yes, yeah, we want to follow you. And we followed them the whole way up this road. They were just like pushing snow. They were creating this path the whole time. And I was like, and then we got to the other side, and because this is how big this mountain is, it was actually like sunny over on the other side, which is a super cool thing. But it got me thinking about like, man, isn't that exactly what Jesus wants to do for us? Whatever darkness, whatever chaos, whatever things we're facing, he wants to come and just push it out of the way. And yeah, it's still going to be messy. It's still going to be scary. There's still a 2,000-foot cliff where it's like at any moment, we could tip over. But if we just like stay, hey, there's this path, there's this entire unified story that's just all it does is point to Jesus, and we can just follow that, man, all of a sudden there's going to be a lot more light that begins to speak into our lives, speak into our journeys, the journeys of those around us. If we jump back to John 1, he talks about creation, Jesus gets baptized, and then Jesus starts to draw his disciples towards him. And in John 1:43, it says, the next day, Jesus decided to go to Galilee. He found Philip and said to him, come, follow me. So likely Philip would have already kind of been with Jesus. So Jesus kind of identifies him and says, hey, come follow me. Philip immediately, probably excitedly, says yes, and he goes. But then the very first thing Philip does is in 2 verses later, in John 1:45. It says, Philip went to look for Nathanael and told him, we have found the very person Moses and the prophets wrote about. His name is Jesus, the son of Joseph from Nazareth. The first thing Philip does is he shares good news. Before he does anything significant with Jesus, before he even realizes what following Jesus looks like, before he learns all about Jesus, he immediately goes and finds his best friend. He immediately goes and draws his friend in and brings him on this journey. What's really cool about Philip is it said that Philip was underneath a fig tree. That could mean he was literally just chilling underneath the fig tree. But it's also a turn of phrase that was used in this culture to refer to someone that was like pondering the coming of the Messiah. There's someone that was just sitting there thinking about, praying about, believing for the Messiah, believing for Jesus. I don't know if Philip knew that Nathanael was sitting under the fig tree, that was pondering this, but it didn't matter to Philip. Philip said, hey, I'm going to bring this guy I know, I'm going to bring him in to the story. You have people in your life that you might not think are looking for good news or looking for the best thing yet, but are probably sitting underneath the fig tree. They're probably sitting waiting for someone to share good news. So regardless of what you think, if you have that good news inside of you, and you're like, wait, what do I do with this? What do I do with it? The first step is just to share it. Just share good news. Later in the Gospels, in Matthew 13, Jesus is talking about seed, and he's talking about, you throw some of it on this soil, and it grows really well. You throw some of it on this soil, and it doesn't grow so well. And you throw some of it on this soil, and it grows well for a little while, and it doesn't. And at the very end of this story, this parable, in Matthew 13:9, it says, whoever has ears, let them hear. It says, whoever has ears, let them hear. It says, yeah, when you share good news, you don't know if it's going to get good results. But your responsibility, our role, is still to share it. It's just to say, hey, I'm not sure if this is going to create this crop that's going to change families, that's going to change lives, but I know there's something good inside me. I'm just going to share that with those around me. I want to point out 2 things. One, some of you are here at church, and we're so grateful you're here at Lifehouse, but maybe you don't even necessarily want the good news, and maybe it's not because it's far out, but maybe it's because you don't know if you deserve it. Maybe there's things that you've done where you're like, man, I'm so far. I've done so many things. I've been looking and I haven't found it. So you're here and you're wrestling, like, man, does this even matter to me? Do I even need the good news? Can I even access it? And some of you maybe want to share it, or I've thought about sharing or talking about your faith or different things, but you haven't seen it. And I just want to talk about the persistence element. So there was a moment when I think I was a senior in high school, where I was really struggling with mental health, and even just the depths of what that conversation can look like. And I remember one night when it was really, really terrible. A friend of mine who probably didn't know where I was mentally, he just reached out. He's like, hey, we should grab coffee. I want to talk to you about some good news, some things I've heard. And I just ignored this man for I don't know. He probably texted me 25 times over the course of 12 hours, and I did not respond to a single text. I'm not sure this is good advice. I'm not sure if you should send somebody 25 texts. I'm not sure if that's the best move. But what eventually happened is okay, fine, he's persistent enough. I got together with him. We got coffee. And man, he just started speaking life. He started sharing his own story, not necessarily the story of the Bible in the sense it's definitely what's found in the Bible, but it was his own story, his own faith, his own good news that each one of you has the ability to have. And just really began to just walk me through this journey that totally changed the trajectory of my life. It gave me the boldness to be, man, I'm not sure if it's going to land on good soil, but I'm going to share good news. I know what my story is. I'm going to be willing to share that with others. So If you're like, man, I need that good news, the first step is just to say, I can accept it. I know it's hard. I'm not sure if I deserve it, but I can accept it. And if you accept the good news that Jesus stepped out of paradise into the darkness to die, then rise again to bring light into all of our own darkness, that's the amazing first step. But then the second step is once you say yes, to say yes again. Say yes, and then say yes again. If each and every person who's ever accepted good news would go and share good news again, the world would look drastically different. Your own family would look drastically different. Your school campuses would look drastically different. Your workplaces would look different. If everyone, not just you, but everyone, say, man, I know this good news. I say yes, and now I'm just going to say yes again. I want to draw this into a little thing, and imagine kind of three quick stories that kind of maybe put this in a little bit of a different perspective. So first is I don't know if anyone likes going to a concert. Maybe it's a music concert. Maybe it's a theater. You're going to an event that has tickets. Imagine that, and you don't get tickets. Rather, maybe it's you can't afford them. Or maybe the event sells out. I use the example I was talking to students about, a Taylor Swift concert, but whatever it is. You have this thing. You're planning on going to it. You can't afford it. You can't go. The event passes, and one of your best friends or someone you're really close to comes to you, and they went. And they're talking about it, and they ask why you didn't go, and you're like, well, I couldn't afford it, I sold out, whatever it was. And they're like, oh, well, I had a seat next to me the whole time because I bought you a ticket, but I just never told you. Exactly, it'd be terrible. But a little bit more serious, maybe there is a medical diagnosis, or there's a relational thing that you're navigating, and it comes to a conclusion, and not the best conclusion. And then you find out that someone's really close to you. Oh man, if I would have known, if I would have thought about it, I could have spoken. I could have just said this one thing, or made this one connection, and got you connected to this one person, and the outcome would have looked drastically different. It doesn't feel really good. But the reality is, if we have good news, it's our responsibility to share it, and even if we don't know how it's going to go. Even if some people are really struggling or really navigating something, I don't know if they're going to accept this, if it's going to work out. But I know the best news is good news, even in the worst times. Even when we're man, I want to show grace by not speaking into it. If it's the best news, if it's the Jesus news, it's good news even in the worst times, or maybe especially in the worst times. The quicker you say yes again, the more likely you will continue to say yes. By not saying yes again, you are potentially saying no for someone else. Even in the worst times, the best news can change everything. I want to look at one more story. It's a story that's found in John 4. And John 4 is this story where you have Jesus and all of his disciples, and their journeying and their trajectory is somewhere further away, but they can go two paths. They can go to the Samaria, or they can kind of go around. And they decide to go to Samaria. The Israelites and the Samaritans, they do not get along. They do not associate with each other. Several examples of that throughout history. But they go to Samaria. They end up at this well. Jesus sends his disciples into town to go buy some food. Jesus is hanging out. It's the middle of the day, and a woman shows up. No one gets water in the middle of the day. It's too hot. The well is an operating well. To show up at the well in the middle of the day means that woman is an outcast, is doing something, is intentionally avoiding other people. She meets Jesus, and Jesus starts talking to him. Samaritan women are not permitted to talk in public to anyone that is not their own spouse, and even that's supposed to be kept to a minimum. So to talk to a man who's also a Jew is crazy. They start talking. Jesus very quickly starts talking about this living water and what it means, and then he says, hey, go find your husband. I would love to tell him about it. Acknowledging kind of the social dynamics, also acknowledging that the woman doesn't have a husband, has had several husbands, is living with someone who isn't her husband, is probably navigating some human trafficking and some other things if we were to make it into our modern context. And then Jesus is like, well, actually, I already knew that, but the living water is still yours. You can still have it. Jesus knows our worst news, our darkest places, and he says you can still have the living water. She accepts it, and then what does she do? The exact same thing Philip does. John 4:29. She goes back into her community and speaks up. Again, Samaritan woman does not speak up in public. She tells the whole town, come, see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah? Come see a man and told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah? She's saying, I don't really know. I had one conversation, but I'm feeling my life's been changed. Could this be the Messiah? Could this be the one? I bet you most people in the village probably knew her story, and she was still willing to go share her story and say, hey, this could be the change, and it is. They end up staying at that village for a few days. Most of the village then comes to believe in Jesus. I imagine many of us' story doesn't look quite like the woman's, but maybe there's some of you today that kind of feel like that. That kind of feel like, man, if anyone would know everything I'm going through, if anyone would know every dark thing, every mistake, the list goes on and on and on. It's like, I don't think anyone's going to want to be part of that. Jesus knows the whole story, and he still says, here's living water. Here's light in the dark places. So for you, I just want you to know that like you are loved. You are cared for. The creator of the universe stepped down from heaven to earth to live life amongst us. And we can just accept to know that he, on the cross, I love this moment where at the resurrection, which we'll celebrate in just a couple of weeks, it says the world got dark when Jesus died. This death he didn't deserve, the world got dark. Imagine it kind of stayed dark for a few days. But then there was so much light at the resurrection because he said, I defeated all the darkness. Yeah, we're still going to experience it. Yeah, we're still driving along that shoulder, and there's still that drop-off where in any moment, things might not go the way we expect. But we can still follow ahead. We can still follow the roadmap laid out for us in the Bible. So if that's you, I just encourage you to accept it just freely yourself. But then, man, to talk to someone here, to talk to maybe someone you're sitting alongside or any of the leaders here at Lifehouse or myself and just celebrate. Hey, man, today I don't know what it looks like, but I'm asking the question, could this be the thing that's going to change the trajectory of my life? Could this be the thing that's going to begin to bring light to the dark places I've been facing? That's kind of the first action. And the second is, all of us can do what the woman did. And man, I've talked to several people, and even myself, where I've gone through long seasons where I haven't told anyone about Jesus or haven't engaged in kind of faith conversations. And I've talked to people that, man, they're 30, 40, 50 years into their faith journey, and we have conversations. They're like, man, I've never told, and it's not a judgment thing, but it's a moment to say like, hey, what would happen if you were to have this come and see, could this be conversation? God's doing something in my life. Well, could it be that this thing could change your life too? It's an invitation to say yes to Jesus, and it is say yes about telling someone else. And the reality is, because soil is different, it might not go the best way, and it might not even, you might have a first conversation or a second conversation, but the more often you say yes, the easier saying yes becomes. Saying yes to serving, saying yes to sharing your story, saying yes to giving, to engaging in the next level of your faith, and then to bring other people alongside of that. We're going to go ahead and step into our response time. And for our response, we have a few different, we're going to play a song so you can respond in music, but then we have our giving that's available up here in the front, or communion, or just prayer up on the altar. And my invitation is kind of maybe a fourfold thought process. Obviously, there's the giving and there's the communion, which we invite you to participate in each week. But beyond that, the kind of the thoughts that I was thinking about is saying yes for the first time. Man, today I want faith in Jesus. I want to begin a relationship with Jesus in my own life. Second part is like you believe fundamentally Jesus is who he is, but your behavior, there's a gap between your behavior and your belief. You're still doing things that bring darkness into your life. And then you can define for yourself what that looks like. But you believe this to be true, but your behavior is just not necessarily aligned. So if you think about, like, what is the one step I can take today? You've never told anyone your story. You've never engaged in the say yes again. What would it look like to say, hey, I want to have a conversation today to say yes again? And then the fourth is like, I've been doing that. I've been doing that for a little while in different settings. But man, I want other people to do it. I want there to be like a revival. I want to bring new life into Winchester, into every area that I'm in. I just want to bring life and gospel and truth and light. So kind of 4 moments. Saying yes, aligning behavior and belief. I didn't want to tell someone yes again. I'm going to say, come and see. Could this be? Could this be the thing that's going to change the darkness that I know you're going through, the hurt I know you're going through? Man, I just want to bring revival. I want to bring hope and light into the city, into the places that I encounter. So I'm going to pray, and then I said there's the giving, and there's the altar available for prayer, and then communion, and then our song that we're responding. And God, I just pray that each one of us could find, man, where do we need good news in our own lives? Where are things not necessarily the light that we expect them to be, the light that we hope them to be? For anyone who's saying, man, I don't know if I deserve this, would you just say, man, they are loved, they are cared for, they were created with a design and a purpose, where they just feel love and light in this morning? God, would you just be every person who's saying, man, I'm ready to take a next step to align my behavior, a next step to share my story, a next step to say, man, I want revival, whatever that next step is, God. Would you allow opportunities for people to think it, to pray through it, to talk about it, and then to respond in it? Would you just be in this next moment of our service and anything that you want your Holy Spirit to do? Amen. So go ahead, feel free to respond during this song, and then I'll close us in prayer.